Hi guys, welcome back, and this time I've got for you the PENON Vortex. It's a single DD IM from PENON using a 10mm DLC diaphragm, and I've had this IM now for a couple of weeks, and I took my time, especially because more and more I not only want to give you a better service in terms of my reviews being more concrete, more definite, more full of genuine knowledge and genuine experience with whatever item I'm experiencing or I'm trying, but also because over the last couple of weeks I've come to possession of some IEMs that have thoroughly impressed me, and I just was caught up in wanting to listen to them more and more and more, and in that way being able to form a definite solid opinion about them instead of just letting them burn in for a few hours, whether or not you believe in that burning process or not. Personally, with regards to the burning process, what I do believe is that loosening up the drivers for a couple of hours will enable them to have some ability to perhaps convey a more genuine sound or sound capability, and by this I mean, what if we are talking about, for example, a planar driver, its physical attributes by nature mean that they don't have much movement of the diaphragm. Therefore, burning them in or running them in for many hours, in my experience, doesn't really yield any true difference. However, a dynamic driver, and this is an experience I gained when I was doing a lot of car audio, subwoofers and or drivers which will reproduce a little bit of lower frequency information do have a tendency of obviously, again, by nature of design, having a certain amount of excursion, and especially a lower frequency driver, and the stiffness and the material used in the surround, which is the outside part of the diaphragm which connects it to the frame, that needs or requires some loosening up. If you guys perhaps have seen or have noticed, in older drivers and in full range home applications of high quality especially, you will see that edge of the driver usually is made of a corrugated type of material, which is like kind of cloth or a mix of cloth and paper. And the reason being, usually those drivers are very high efficiency drivers. They do not require a lot of movement of the diaphragm, and that type of surround yields certain specific stiffness characteristics which enable then the driver to perform in the way that's desired. Other drivers, especially when we're talking about now subwoofers, use foam roll surrounds, or they use butyl rubber surrounds, and again those yield different results. And the same thing happens with dynamic drivers. So all of this story to say that yes, I have been letting some of my IMs run in for a little bit, 10, 15, 20 hours, 30 hours at the very most. So basically I let them run in for a day, and then I start listening to them. Anyway, that's what I did with the PENON Vortex. I let it run in for a few days, a couple of hours, just to loosen it up, and then I started listening to it. And the more I listened, the more I was impressed by how underrated this IM actually is. Anyway, this is the box. Very simple, very much PENON style kind of thing. Inside there, I'll show you now what I bought, but it's got this little carrying case. Yeah, I don't know what it is for, honestly. Okay. And then, actually inside there, what we got was this case. This case brings a whole bunch of tips, brings these ePro horn-shaped tips, which I tried, but I ended up not really using. I'm actually using the green ones, these specific ones, but these ones actually yielded some, well, the best results for me at least. And it's got Well, sorry, actually I'm using these ones. Sorry. My apologies. They're green and I just got carried away now. I'm using these ones, as you can see there. Right, and the standard cable also came inside of the box, plus obviously the IEM itself. The standard cable is an 819, if I'm not mistaken. Just give me a second. Yes, it's a CS819. It's an 8-core, copper based cable. It's good, and this again brings me to touch up on another topic which I will be conversing with you guys a little bit better in a future video, which has to do with cables. Are cables really what they all are cut out to be, or is it just a big way of getting money out of people for no reason at all? The long story short is, if a cable is well designed, if a cable will yield certain specific characteristics in its design, referring to its loop resistance, so its DC resistance in ohms, its capacitance in its inductance in henries, and its capacitance in farads. If certain specific values are met, then yes, then you will see differences in how that cable will interact with the IEM that it's connected to. And when I say IEM, I mean obviously a speaker, whatever. It applies to all cables in general. And obviously, if the IEM that it's connected to is a single DD, it will interact in a specific way. If it's a hybrid with BAs and DDs and a crossover, it will interact in a different way. Why? Simple. Because those values that I've just mentioned, which are of the cable, will come into play with the values that are present in that specific internal schematic of the IEM. If it's a single ED, it's just in the specific parameters of the driver itself. If it's a multiple driver IEM, all the parameters of the drivers and the components which make up the crossover will affect. So yes, you will see differences, but let's also be honest and realistic about it. The differences in terms of measuring it with an apparatus or with a measuring graph, you won't see those differences in a measuring graph. Okay, I'm talking about a decently designed cable. I'm not talking about you just taking a piece of a wire and just connecting it. So a decently designed cable, which in essence is the majority of the cables that come with many IEMs of a specific price. They are of decent quality. So you will not perceive those differences in actual graph of an IEM. But yes, you will perceive certain differences in its sonic capabilities. And if you have a trained ear and if you really are listening carefully under controlled conditions, you can have the best cable in the world, whatever. It's not in the metro that you're going to notice the difference between that cable and a good average cable. You won't. I will pay, honestly, I will make a bet that nobody is that capable of. In a metro with all the noise, that you will see the difference between a cable and that's all nonsense. Whoever says you that, he doesn't, he's anyway. Let's not go there. I just get carried away when I hear certain things. It's just, anyway. I guess it's just my background, which makes me be a little bit more, I don't know. Anyway, continuing. So, yes, cables will affect if the cable is of low quality, if the cable is of high quality. In this particular case of the Vortex, this cable is a good cable. It performs very admirably with, interacts very admirably with the Vortex. However, having said that about this cable, I have to admit that I did see very minute improvements, specifically in the clarity, the overall ultimate little bit of extra sparkle by using this cable from PENON, which is a cable that I usually use quite often. Okay, as you can see, this is a monster in terms of its appearance, but it is what it is. And what is this cable? This cable is let me just show you. there. It's an S16, okay? 16 core, that's why it's the S16. And this cable, much like the S8, which is also part of PENON, is a cable which performs very, very admirably. And in conjunction with the Vortex, it actually matches quite nicely. There are a few other cables here which I'll get to in a second and let you know as well. These are the IEMs, so very, very small. Their design actually is reminiscent of the TANCHJIM oxygen, which, by the way, I have over here. So let me just grab them. Okay, just that one is a resin shell, the Vortex, the other one is a metal. But I wonder if perhaps they got their inspiration from the oxygen. Could be. It's a high quality resin shell. It uses that 10mm DLC diamond-like coating diaphragm. Fits impeccably. It just disappears in your ears. It's super light. I mean, we're talking about. I didn't weigh it. I'm just going by what I read in the characteristics. They say 4 grams. It could actually be 5 grams. It could actually be 3 grams. All I know is they're light. Okay, yeah, that's basically it in terms of its physical characteristics. One thing I have noticed is the faceplate is always different. I've not seen anyone which is the same. There's always a different kind of a finish, at least out of all the pictures that I have seen of Vortexes. And from what I know as well, in terms of its quality control, there hasn't been, as far as I know, any reports of anything which is out of the ordinary or out of context. Okay. With regards to what I listened or what I used to listen to the Vortex and make my comparisons, I used my trusted NX7. I just love this thing. I honestly think it's one of the more underrated little amplifiers out there. Used it with I actually used it with both of these dongles, which is the new Truthier Shio, and I used it with the AP90, which uses the 4493. The 4493 exactly. 4493. And both of them match very well with the NX7 and give me a really nice sound. I also used the topping, the TK2, and I used my A50S, my topping A50 desktop. But this combo I really like. I mean, it just matches so well with so many of my IEMs that I end up sticking many times to this combination. What IEMs do I have here in front of us then to talk about and compare with the Vortex? Simple. I've got, well, let me start on this side. I've got my TANCHJIM Oxygen. Still, for me, my go-to reference single DD. In the coming weeks, I hope to be able to be lucky enough to have access to some really highly regarded single DDs. A fellow audiophile and enthusiast is being kind enough to loan me those mentioned IEMs, which I prefer to wait until I actually have them to know which ones exactly. So who knows, maybe perhaps then I will change my idea. But until then, my Oriolos Isabellai, which I didn't put in this comparison because these are all IEMs around $300 or below $300, let's put it that way. And that one is already $600, so a completely different price bracket, although the performance is the same as these. So TANCHJIM Oxygen. Next to it, the SonicMemory SM2, another IEM which for some reason just hasn't gotten much love, and I can't understand why, honestly. And then on this side here, the SIMGOT, the EN1000, which I recently reviewed, and it deserves to be here because it really is a special IEM as well, and it has joined this group of single DDs that I really have a weak spot for, because it is genuinely very good. just very quickly in terms of their sonic characteristics, they all have a very similar kind of tuning, harmonish, some a little bit more pronounced, and by pronounced I mean some have a little bit more emphasis on the bass end, some a little bit less. Some have the pinna gain done in a little bit slightly more abrupt manner, others in a slightly more relaxed manner. The two that are more relaxed in the way that they do their pinna gain is the Vortex and the SM2. The ones that are a little bit more abrupt, and again, please keep in mind when I say abrupt and relaxed, it's, you'll see when I show you the graphs by what I mean is in the context of this here, okay, is the SIMGOT and the TANCHJIM. As for sound itself, well, TANCHJIM Oxygen, it's pure bliss in terms of its timbre and tonality for me. Yes, ultimately in terms of resolution, the Vortex, for example, actually beats it, which was a surprise to me, to be honest. I wasn't expecting. It's more resolving than that. But overall, the tonality and the timbre of the Oxygen is what seduces me, and what just takes just takes me away. What cable is it using? It's using an XINHS 8-core graphene cable, and I'm using this cable again because it's one of the cables which I really feel those people that are cable lovers and that like cables and they're always looking for the ultimate cable to have and so on, this is a cable that you should have. Trust me, this 8-core graphene cable is definitely a must-have. Its characteristics within those specific parameters that I was talking about just a little bit earlier are perfect. It's perfect. So this is a cable that I highly recommend from XINHS. Costs around $60, so nothing out of this world, and goes to show that there are some decent cables from HiFi. You do not have to necessarily go and spend more money and go buy crazy, spend crazy amounts of money. You don't. This is a genuinely good cable. Okay. Next to the Oxygen, I've got my SM2. It's again using an XINHS cable. Once again, this cable I've chosen it because of its characteristics. Those parameters that I mentioned fall very well within those minimum requirements, let's put it that way. And SM2 is again an IEM that surprises in a very positive manner, not only because of its very correct timbre and tonality, although the Oxygen slightly edges it out, but just it's about the balance. The SM2 is all about balance. Everything doesn't come out of context. Everything is very equal, very much like the Vortex actually. Okay, the Vortex is again the same thing, but I'll get to that in a second. So this is about balance, about surprising you when you least expect it. Okay, it's got ample enough space. It's got everything is just very well executed, in my opinion, very well. Its only issue really is its fit, because this shell is not the most comfortable. If people complained about the Oxygen, then well, I mean, this is not a comfortable shell to put in. Looks beautiful, looks stunning, but it's not comfortable. Okay. On the opposite end, the SIMGOT, it's got again crazy design features, beautiful in terms of its physical aspects. It's got this nice crazy feature which is integrated into the actual connection plug. Is a let's say an impedance adapter network, which changes very much the characteristics of the EN1000. I'm using it with the stock one, with the standard one, because it's the one that, in my opinion, keeps the balance of everything in check. the other plugs will lower the energy level of the EN1000, but by lowering it, everything starts coming a little bit out of that equilibrium, of that balance that the EN1000 has. Very nice. The standout feature of this is its quickness. Okay, so over here we have timbre and tonality as its standout feature, in my opinion. In the SM2 we have its balance, its everything, all the frequencies interact with each other is its standout feature. And over here it's the speed. The speed of this driver is really quite something. Okay, on to the Vortex. What can I tell you about the Vortex? Well, first thing, very resolving. I would probably say that it is the most resolving of all. Not by leaps and bounds, but by it's probably the most resolving one. Very the 10mm DLC driver that they used here, the diamond like carbon fiber diaphragm driver, is sublime. Period. It's well done. They chose it well. It's got very much the typical PENON house sound. And what is that typical PENON house sound? It's a sound that you can see was tuned by people that know what music must sound like. So it doesn't chase characteristics. It doesn't chase being perfect in the graph, or no, it chases sounding correct. So it gives the bass. It's got, in my opinion, more than enough girth, more than enough oomph to be well-rounded, to sound deep, to convey then and to give the energy into the mids and into the highs that it's needed. The mids are perfectly tuned. I mean, honestly, there's nothing that can be said about the mids. They've got good body, good texture. Male voices, female voices sound perfect. No sibilance. It's just perfect mids, perfect. And then the treble is done in a manner which is never aggressive, never harsh, never unpolished. Everything is just, again, and like I said, much like the SM2, everything is just very well balanced out, very coherent, very well tuned. End of story. Okay, so we have what? We have a solidly tuned IEM with good bass presentation, good texture, good speed, although this edges it out slightly, but the speed here is top notch. We have an IEM capable of excellent mid-range presentation. The instruments sound realistic, so in terms of its timbre and tonal balance, everything is very well done, very well balanced, very much on par with all of these, and actually beating some of them on certain occasions. So these are all very equally matched. Okay, keep that in mind. What more can I say? The small form factor, I think, is something which will be pleasant or satisfying to many people, that, especially ones that have the smaller ears. I don't have very big ears, but anyway, but it will be something which I'm sure will please many people, and its overall capability to have a very high-end sound at a reasonably affordable price. This is around $240, give or take. $220, a little bit, sometimes a little bit cheaper, but around $215, $220 you can get this. So yeah, guys, that's it. It's another one that I have now made part of those single DDs that I really think are truly special. Okay, there's really, honestly, nothing that I can point as a negative factor, because for the price, what it does everything well. I mean, in terms of its technicalities, which I actually forgot to just mention, in terms of its technicalities, soundstage could be a little bit wider, but it's got good height, it's got good depth. Imaging is spot on. so nothing to say there. As I mentioned, the timbre, tonality, it's balanced there again, is very well executed. Texturing of the bass, of the mids, everything. It is a genuinely well-tuned IM, and another very pleasant surprise. One that I think it's becoming very much the norm from PENON. I really wasn't expecting to be so impressed with so many of their IEMs, and lately, basically everything that I've tried from them up to now has impressed me. I've just received the fan, basically because I had the fan too, and I said to myself, well, why not try the original one? So I'll be reviewing that soon enough. But the rest of the IMs from PENON, I've really enjoyed. So yeah, that's it, guys. I think I've basically said everything that needs to be said about the Vortex. It joins this group, as I mentioned. If you have the opportunity to listen to it, please listen to it. And keep in mind that it's an IM which is very much like the SonicMemories, and to a certain extent as well the EN1000 and the Oxygen in its own right. It's an IM like the others here, basically capable of my apologies about that noise. It's an IM capable of offering a very high level of performance, way above what it actually costs. Although I'm not saying that it should be more expensive. No, I'm not saying none of that. I'm one of the few people that actually says that things should get cheaper, actually. But yes, the performance that it offers is a very high grade performance. Anyway, like and subscribe as always. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And I'll show you the graphs now next, so that you guys can have a final idea of how it graphs, just for the sake of knowing and seeing what it's like. Alright, anyways, have a good one. Hi guys, so welcome now to the graph section of my review for the PENON Vortex. And as you can see straight away, this is the graph of the Vortex, and I think it's self-explanatory. If there is anything here, and before I carry on with the other rest of comparisons, if there is anything here that can serve to help some of you understand what this IM is about, the diagram that I'm now just putting up, or the graph rather, sorry, my apologies, is the graph of the venerable MIM Dark Magician. And that IM has a cult following for the reasons that, those that have it will understand why. And as you can see, there's a lot of similarities. The graph doesn't say full justice. There's definitely more bass than in the MIM, and it's a very nice high quality bass. And then although you see the Vortex having more energy, in the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7K area than the MIM, it doesn't sound that way, because everything is just very well balanced with the amount of bass that it has. So it sounds absolutely amazing. I want to again repeat this. I honestly was not expecting to be this impressed with the Vortex. I really wasn't. I don't know, maybe it's wrong of me to think this way, but I just wasn't. I knew it was going to be a good IM. I had no doubt about that. I just did not expect it to be this good. That's it. Okay, so that's the PENON Vortex diagram. The next one that I'm going to be showing you now is the SonicMemory, the SM2. And SM2, as you can see, they are very similar. And again, I repeat, that's why I said that they sounded both of them sounded very balanced, very coherent, very, they both have got very good, that 3D-ness, which I actually forgot to mention when I was talking about the Vortex earlier, but that 3D effect that, sometimes will differentiate a good IM from a very good IM, both of them have it. They both have it. The SonicMemory has just a little bit more bass, but it's not as quick as the bass of the Vortex, okay? Next one I'm going to show you now is the, apologies, where is it? Is the SIMGOT. Okay, let me just align it here. Sorry guys, I forgot to align it. There we go. What can I say about the SIMGOT? Again, everything is just within such a nice, close, tight tolerance that it just makes for a very nice sounding IEM. The biggest difference between the SIMGOT and the Vortex is the SIMGOT has got more energy in the mids and brilliance area, which then give it a more open sound, and so that 3D effect as well is bigger. The rest of it sounds basically the same. I mean, the SIMGOT is perhaps just a little bit harder to drive as well, but everything sits. I mean, the SIMGOT sits within, and this is something which I've come to see as a feature that will dictate a lot the sound quality of an IEM. 78, 84. So everything sits between roughly a 6 dB window, and wow. I mean, it's what happens with the MIM. If you actually look at it, and let me just take away that. Okay, that's the MIM compared with the SIMGOT. Need I say more? I don't think so. Okay, so back with the Vortex, and now finally the Oxygen. And as you can see, Oxygen, yes, sounds fuller in the bass. It does have a little bit more extra weight to the bass, more so than what the actual diagram graph will show. This area of the mids between the let's say between 1 and 5 is very identical. I really didn't see any difference. I couldn't pick up any difference. What I did notice, yes, was just a slight more smoothness in the mids of the Vortex, the mids of the Oxygen a little bit more tonally more pleasing. Okay, let's put it that way. Where you do notice that it doesn't have the same kind of 3D-ness as this, yeah, like I said, this is one thing that can be an indicator to that. And yes, the TANCHJIM does lose out slightly in that aspect to the Vortex. Anyway, I'll just put all of them together so you guys can see how closely matched they are. So that's the Vortex, that's the Vortex and the Oxygen. This is the SM2, and this is the SIMGOT. And as you can see, they all are very, very, very closely matched. I mean, if I was to actually line them up, not at 1 kilohertz, but at 500 hertz, I think that I might even get it to look even closer. So let's okay, all right, there. So that's the Vortex with the SM2. Let's put in now the Oxygen 500 hertz, there you go. And now the SIMGOT. Oops, sorry about that. And now the SIMGOT. There we go. No, actually, they with that 1 kilohertz, they actually do look more balanced or more equal than they do at 500. At 500, you start seeing two groups standing out, which in reality, when you actually listen to it, this is not the kind of difference that you see in the bass. The truth is this: any one of those four IEMs are IEMs that you can't really go wrong with, and I think what will be the main deciding factor will be the fit of them. With regards to fit, the one that is the best fitting is unquestionably the Vortex. Although the shell is very similar to the TANCHJIM, the fit of the Vortex is very nice. The Oxygen, if the short nozzle is not an issue, will fit also very nicely. It will basically disappear in your ear. The SIMGOT, although being relatively large, does fit nicely. It does fit nicely actually. It's just the size, which makes it a little bit more cumbersome. And then the one that really is a mess with regards to the fit is the SM2. I mean, the SM2 is just, well, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, this is what I have for you for the Vortex. If you have the opportunity to listen to it, listen to it. And yeah, that's it. And if you can get it with a special discount, then why not? If you're looking for a really good single DD, go ahead and get it. You won't regret. Okay? Anyway, take care. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.